Hello. Today I will be demonstrating how to fabricate a 1.5 inch button style ability switch. I've got a little kit here with all the parts that we need, so let's get to work. I found this button style on Thingiverse, by the way, and it's a very nice design. It just screws together the base and the cap, and the button lever here has actually got a spring action built into the design. So you have these three parts with the micro switch going into the middle. Okay, we'll set that aside for a moment and begin. The other parts that we have in our kit are, of course, some cable. I've got 2 conductor wire here. The type of cable that you need for a project is important. For example, if we were making a battery interrupter today, we would probably want a wire that's more sturdy than this stranded copper wire that's inside here. We'd probably want a single core piece of wire that's going to be stiffer, sturdier for something like a battery interrupter. This wire here, it's a 22 gauge wire, 20, and it's very flexible. This will be nice for our cable for our switch. Okay, the other pieces we have in here are our micro switch, which we will adapt in a moment. We have our 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter mono, as indicated by the single black ring male plug. We've got some shrink tubing, a couple different sizes that we'll be using. We have a couple of zip ties that we'll use to make our project nice and strong. And then at the end, to tidy everything up, we have a Velcro strap that will keep everything nice and neat. Okay, first off, I'm going to attach the plug to one end of our wire, and you've actually seen that in prior video clips. So for expediency, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that section. Okay, now we're ready to get on with the rest of the switch build. You can see I've completed adding my male plug onto one end of the cable. Nice clean job. And I used one of my zip ties here to strengthen the connection so that if users should pull on the cable, it's not going to stress the solder joints. Now here's our micro switch, and you can notice it has 3 terminals. We obviously only need 2. The first thing though is this lever arm on here. We don't need that, so we're gonna pull that off. So I'm taking a pair of needle nose pliers here, bend it back, and I'm gonna get down low as far as I can here on the arm, and I'm just gonna roll this back, and it pops out. And now it's out of our way. The other thing is, hopefully I'll be able to show this to you. These terminals are each labeled C for closed. The middle one here says NO, normally open. I'm sorry, the C is common. The NO is normally open, and then over on this end, NC, normally closed. We need the common over here and the NO, normally open, those 2. All right, so common is the one. You'll notice the little tiny red lever nub there is not quite center, which will be important as I'll show you in a moment. It's off to one side a little bit, and that's the side with the common terminal. All right, now it's important to realize that that nub is not center, because that dictates what orientation we are going to be putting this inside of our switch housing, because we want the red hub nub to be center in the switch, as it is right here in this orientation. All right, If we had flipped it, now that nub is going to be off to one side and the switch is not going to be nearly as effective. Okay, so now that we've realized that, we have to figure out where our terminals are in relation to how we want the switch, which is this way. Okay, so we also can see, so here's the common closest to the red nub, and then the middle one. So these are the two terminals we need to solder our wires onto. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use my helping hands here at this point to just orient that for us. Okay, now here is my other end of my cable, which I've already pre-tinned on the ends. Another somewhat important thing, we want the cable to be coming out from the side like this, so that when the micro switch is inside of our housing here, the cable will be coming out the side. All right, that's how everything will fit well. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with the middle one here, feeding it through that hole in the terminal. There we go. Got things placed where I want them. Now I'm going to bring some heat in and solder, complete that connection. There we go. One down. I'll go ahead and show that to you. I'm actually going to, you can see it's actually really nicely soldered on there. There's some extra wire I'm going to clip off. Perfect. One down. Now we'll just take care of the second one. Get everything held in place nicely for us. A good set of helping hands is going to make all the difference in how easy your projects are to complete. There, two clean solders. The switch cable is coming straight out the side. Now, I did forget one thing I'm always stressing to remember. In this particular case, it's not going to matter. Shrink tubing, if you don't have it in place before you start soldering, you can't add it on easily later. But, as you can see here in this case, I have very little bare wire showing, and there's no way those are going to ever cross over, so we're okay. All right, believe it or not, we're almost done. So now let's test how well that seems to fit. That fits really nicely in there. That's good. Okay, doing all right here. Now, the last thing that we want to do, I want to add another wire tie so that, again, if this gets pulled on, it won't pull on. I don't want it to pull on the solder joints there. So I'm going to add a little slack and figure out, I want to put this tie right about here. And actually, I'm going to wrap it around an extra time. Okay. That should be okay, I think. pull that a little tight, not too tight. I don't want to crimp the wires inside, but I want it snug. Cut off the excess. Now, when I lay that in there, see, if this gets pulled on, it just pulls on the wire tie and not the solder joints. So that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I told you, this is an easy build. So now, we can take our cap, screw that into place, and test our switch. To test the action, I can tap all along the edge and it doesn't get stuck, and we hear the auditory clicks. So that's good. You have to worry about whether if it gets stuck when you press it, that's an issue. But that looks real good. Now notice I just tightened this the last quarter turn, and now my switch does not pop back up. That's the one thing with this switch model. If you screw it down all the way, that will happen. Just back it off about a quarter turn and it works great. Okay, now I'll plug it into my tester box. The final test. It's working great. All right, so that is our 1.5 inch button style ability switch. The other thing I wanted to show you about these switches is that there's a couple variations. This one simply is a smaller version. This is a 1.15 inch diameter button surface. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. And this one, it's the same except for the button itself is recessed. So, whereas this one rises up above the ring, this one actually dips down below a little bit, so the user could rest their finger on here easily or on the ledge and dip down into the middle to activate the switch. This was a nice modification for some folks. All right, thank you.